July 31st, 2019. Today I want to talk about crop health, as usual, or as frequent, and specifically as it relates to actually testing for crop health. So the best way to test for a crop's health is to do something called plant sap analysis. You can have that done through Advancing Eco-Agriculture. You can send in a lab sample and they'll do plant sap analysis, and they can tell what nutrients and micronutrients are missing or in imbalance in a plant. And they take a sample from the old leaves and a sample from the new leaves, and they can kind of develop a picture from that. And as you go on, you take additional plant sap analysis tests as you go through the season. You can develop a profile of your crop health and what's missing, and you can address that with foliar feeds directly and have very fast results and effects that will greatly affect your yield. That said, the test is about $65, so it's not a cheap test for small farmers like myself, and from an strictly economic standpoint, it doesn't make sense to do a test if your crop is worth less than $5,000. The yield payback in taking that test and correcting for that won't be enough to justify that $65. But I'm going to do some plant sap analysis tests this year because I want to calibrate myself better on the soil that I'm working on and the plants that I'm working with, and improve my plant health and improve my yields and quality. That said, there is a home test that you can do that is sort of a blunt tool for the job, but it's a great way to have a reference of whether you're going up in value or down in value in what you're trying to achieve. So that test is called a Brix test, and we use something called a Brix meter, well, commonly called a Brix meter. It's technically called a refractometer. And this is a refractometer. This one does 0 to 30 Brix, and that's about the range that you want for testing plant sap and fruit juices to determine whether you're going up or down. So I did a test the other day on these beefsteak tomatoes here, and it was somewhere between 10 and 12 Brix. I guess I would say 11 if I had to average the two edges of the blur line. Basically what you do is you take something like a garlic press, like this, and you put a bunch of leaf matter in there, like this, and you crush that to squeeze the sap out of it, and you put that on the refractometer, and then you look through the refractometer, and there's a scale on the refractometer. Let me see if I can get you close enough into that to at least see the scale. I'm sorry, this is another blunt tool for this job, really. Yeah, you can see the scale there, kind of. I'm sorry, that's not the best view. But I will grab an image off the web and throw in here as well so you can see that scale better. But the basic principle is you're looking to increase the Brix levels of the plant sap on the crop that you're working with. And so if you're continually increasing the Brix levels, then you're making progress in a positive direction. And basically, Brix is usually used for measuring sugar content or salinity and other suspended solids. And basically, with plants, as you increase the plant's health, it will have more suspended sugars, solids, micronutrients, salts, all those kind of things in the plant sap. And so as you improve the health of the plant, that plant sap will have higher concentrations, so your Brix value will go up. So that's the basic principle. This is a very blunt tool, but if you're checking your crops on a daily or weekly basis, and you check them around the same time of day, so you have sort of control on the environmental conditions, because it varies throughout the day quite greatly, it can give you kind of a gauge as to whether you're making progress or not. So I'm going to go ahead and squeeze some juice out here and put it on the refractometer. I just did a foliar drench on all of these tomatoes and also all those Roma tomatoes last night, and I just kind of want to see how we're looking. So I'll squeeze some sap out here, and then I'll take a shot, and I'll tell you what the reading is. So just a quick shot. You squeeze the sap out, that's what it looks like. There's a couple of drops on there. Then you gently close the cover, Now it's all encapsulated. You see there's no air bubbles in there. Now we'll look through the refractometer at a good light source, preferably the sun, and we'll take a reading and see what the Brix reading is on this particular plant. So I don't know if you can see that very well, but you can see there's kind of a line of demarcation there between around 10, where it goes from that darker blue to that lighter green and then white. And so it looks like we're running around 10 or 11 Brix. In that range. So not too bad. I guess I should mention that obviously environmental conditions have a huge effect on this, and this is part of why this is such a blunt tool, but it does give us kind of a gauge. And I'll also be testing fruit. As these fruit ripen, I'll be taking ripe fruit and doing tests on them to see what they rate at. I know there are some established guidelines for what's a really good tomato and what isn't flavor-wise as it relates to Brix. So if I can find that chart, maybe I'll stick that up. I'll probably stick that up along when I do tomatoes rather than here. So that said, this is just kind of another way to monitor plant health and to kind of use some testing tools to get some feedback. I talk a lot about micronutrients and biology and building plant health, and I don't always get right down into the nitty-gritty details because I'm not all that well versed in it. I've been learning from a number of different resources, which I've shared with my YouTube viewers many times and will continue to share. One of those resources is Advancing Eco-Agriculture, and actually they just put out an excellent webinar today on the role of micronutrients in crop health. And so I will put a link to that video right down below here, and I highly recommend you spend the hour to listen to it because it's really crucial information. And he also references a book, Plant Mineral Nutrition and Disease, I believe is the name of the book, or the title of the book. But you'll see it if you check out this video. Excellent information, and I just kind of want to stay on point with the testing concept. People, always want to know, well, how can you really tell if your plants are truly healthy? Well, really the only way to tell, just like anything else that's done scientifically, is testing. There's lots of flavor and other intuitive sort of things and anecdotal sort of things that you can use as guidelines, but if you really want to know the facts about your plant health, you need to test. And then once you've done testing, like plant sap analysis, you can determine what you need to do to address those imbalances and balance them, and that can really greatly improve both your yield and the quality of your yield, not to mention disease and pest resistance. So that's kind of my point of this video today. This is a little bit longer than I wanted to go, but I wanted to introduce people to this and kind of get your mind thinking. So I hope you found this helpful or informative. If you have any questions or comments, please do so down below. And thanks as always for watching the Farmacy Seeds Network.